Welcome, and thank you for joining us. I'm Justin Furby, Workday's Vice President of Investor Relations. Coming out of Rising and our recent Financial Analyst Day, and given the constant news cycle of AI advancements at the foundational level, I've been fielding a lot of questions from investors, many of which very similar in nature, around Workday's positioning and strategy in AI, and just how we think about our opportunity ahead. With that in mind, I invited Workday's President of Product and Technology, Gerrit Kazmaier, to sit down with me to answer a few questions that will shed some insight around our technology and platform and help provide foundation for why we're so excited about our journey ahead.
Thank you for having me, Justin.
Gerrit, thank you for coming with us today. I wanted to start maybe just big picture, set the stage. There's a lot of different players in AI. You've got the foundational models and a lot of different things happening at that level. You've got third-party vendors. You've got even customers with their own AI journeys and some of their own internal work. And just talk a little bit about how you see the ecosystem of players and where we fit into that.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Like you've said, there is so much information out there. There are so many forms of AI right now in the market that it's easy, sometimes maybe to even lose track, right, on how companies like Workday fit in and what our value add is. First and foremost, I think it's important for us to understand that AI models, the way how we see them, it's infrastructure. We call it computational intelligence, right, or computational reasoning, if you will. It's a new API that we have and that we consume to build solutions. And that pretty much tells you how we characterize foundation model providers, if you will. So we work with all of them. They have all different qualities. They have different inference characteristics. They have different cost profiles. They have different reasoning capabilities. And we look at them as APIs. And we compose now AI systems over them to solve business problems. And I think that's already very important to understand because, as you said, right, someone might say, well, why doesn't it all, being solved in the model already? And the reality is, right, these models, they're just giving you one capability. They give you reasoning on demand. We didn't have that before. That's like, the new VM, if you will, if you want to think about it in those terms as infrastructure. And now we need to use that infrastructure to build solutions. And the key to understand is that in an enterprise context, we are dealing with unique challenges. One is that, we deal with private data. It's proprietary to an enterprise. This data set is not shared. It belongs to a single customer. The problem domains that we are solving for, they have incredibly high accuracy demand. For instance, think about paying people.
Right.
Or producing a P&L report, right? It needs to be 100% correct, not 90% correct, or be correct 90% of the time. It needs to be always correct and even auditable. So our focus is on building these complex AI systems that compose now business logic, business enterprise data, and use foundation models to solve, real business problems as a solution.
Yeah, that's a great place to start, Gerrit. What I want to do now is just focus in a little bit around our core markets, HR, finance. Just talk about the impact specifically AI is having here and how you think about what that looks like over time.
Yeah, I think, when we talk about our domain, it really starts from first principles. We need to understand, or if you will, reconnect with the real big problems that CHROs, CFOs, CIOs are having in their today business already, and how AI gives us now a unique way of solving these problems in new ways, delivering superior value. So if you are a CHO, right, you think about building the best candidate experience, but also reducing time to hire and increasing your recruiter capacity as an example, or you're trying to increase payroll compliance. If you are a CFO, right, one of the things you worry about is how efficiently are you actually managing your cash position? How much intelligence can you use of all of the contracts you have signed, right? For all of the companies out there, the CFOs, most of them don't know what contracts they have and what terms they agreed to. And then you need to marry that up with real business transactions that are happening in real time. Or if you are a CIO, right, you're trying now to build these inner-company solutions using AI by composing something that's uniquely yours by using HR and finance data, but also maybe CRM and supply chain data to reflect your own business processes. So these problems exist, right? And now the question is, what ways do we have with AI to build new and superior solutions for that? And I want to give you a couple of examples and also talk why that matters so much.
Okay.
The first big category for us is hyper automation with AI. So for instance, if you're a candidate, right, and you're trying to apply, you have an always-on intelligence that helps you find the right jobs, telling you if you're qualified, scheduling an interview, really helping you through the entire process. Or if you're a recruiter, right, helping you to sift through, all of these CVs and resumes and bringing them to order and matching them to skills, or even finding internal talent. Or if you are a CFO, right, an AI system for hyper automation can look through all of the contracts that you're having, all of the contracts you have signed years ago, and tell you if that contract entitles you to a discount in a business transaction happening now in real time.
Yeah.
That was simply not possible before, right? Because you had to bring in a human, a lawyer, to read the contract, right? So that's category number one, hyper automation. Super exciting, super relevant, lots of business value. The second category is new employee and new user experiences. You can think about AI as the new UI. I think that's a very good way of characterizing it, because how we can engage now with system profoundly changes. Think about your daily work life, right, and what you do every day. For instance, something as mundane as approving expenses, right? What about you had an intelligent assistant, sidekick in your pocket, right, that basically helps you doing this all the time, automate everything that you can automate, and notifying you about things that just doesn't look right. It really warrants your attention. Or when you think about skill development and people development, a personal tutor, again, in your pocket, right? It understands not the corporate learning program alone, but your specific role, what you do every day, what you do well, and where you need help and can further improve on, and provides that to you in real time. Those are the new experiences that are really unlocking new ways of working, or what we describe as, the new front door to work with our AI experience strategy. And then lastly, the ecosystem and the platform. AI gives us an incredible opportunity to rethink composable AI. Here is the bottom line, right? Today, many customers opt for suite solutions because they are not innovating, they are integrating all the time, right? And the cost of integrations are so big for CIOs. So they go for these very big monolithic suites, end-to-end, wall-to-wall.
Yep.
And they know it's not the best, but it allows them to not spend as much energy on integration, data field mapping, API mappings, security, and so forth. And that was a real concern in the past. But now with AI, they have an opportunity now to really rethink their composable ERP strategy. And it's great for Workday, right? As the best vendor in HR and finance, because now this can be part of an overarching enterprise ERP landscape without that integration cost and really putting the focus on innovating. Based on that strategy, we are publishing a ton of AI APIs to really unlock the ecosystem for us. We brought in assets that add connectivity and agent building creation to our platform strategy. So it's not only for customers, it's also for partners and for ISVs now to build their own AI solution based on the Workday stack. So those are the top three: hyper automation with AI, new employee experiences, and unlocking an AI enterprise ecosystem.
Those three areas, I want to come back to them, but before we do, I want to kind of hit the really big question that we're getting a lot from investors and probably from other folks as well, which is, you think about the moat that we have, and there's a couple of different angles investors think about this. One is the upstarts, right? People that are coming up, there's a ton of venture money going into this. What's our defensibility against that? And then secondarily, the traditional players, the ERP vendors, some of the point solution vendors, how do we think about where we're different in areas where they can't really, it'd be at least difficult for them to replicate our opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly important question. And I do think, it really cuts to the core of why is it hard to build enterprise-grade AI solutions. We see lots of success in the consumer space, right? Everyone's using that. I'm trying, certainly at home. And yet, we see a big divide between the public consumer domain and the enterprise domain as of today, right? We all know the studies. You have certainly read the report. I'm sure our analysts and investors did too, about the billion spent and the marginal return so far.
Yep.
So there is a reason for that, right? And the reason is that the recipes that we use for public model training and also the domains we apply to, they are not translating to enterprise. And that's where Workday's advantage, uniquely comes in. I really think we have such an incredible position with what we have as a technology and as a data set and as a business process system that is uniquely positions us for being an AI innovator in the enterprise space. And it really breaks down into the following points. One is enterprise data is different from public data, right? First of all, it belongs to a customer, right? So you cannot just simply put into a model. That's one, obviously.
Yeah.
Secondly, you need to have a very wide and very broad data set, right? You need to know what data means when you say HR in a global domain. And we have a global unified data set across all of our customers because Workday was born in the cloud, right? This is the only form factor that we always deployed our software, and it gives us that pristine, very well-defined data set across the enterprise. But there is even more, right? Because you could ask, right, why don't you just take this data out into any other system, right? Why wouldn't that work? And first of all, it wouldn't work because you just have then a slice of the data, right? For one specific customer, not, the data set, across the Workday footprint. That's one big point. But even more importantly, data is not everything. I think we are oversimplifying when we say, data is moat. Actually, you need to have data. You need to have business context. You need to know what this data truly means, not as a data field, but you need to know what a worker is, what a skill is, what an organization is, how they relate, what an invoice is, a bill, a supplier contract, a revenue contract, and how they relate to other in the finance domain. And you need to have the business process system that sits across of that. Because all of these data sets have constraints, right? They're not just written and read in one way, right? It needs to be compliant. Paying someone in the US payroll data is different from paying someone in Europe.
Right.
An invoice is different than a bill, right? And you need to know how to handle them. And you need to do that with enterprise-grade accuracy. So now let's think about all of that in combination, right? You need to have a very wide and big data set about the enterprise domain, which doesn't exist in the public domain. That's one. Secondly, you need to have the data model and the business process context to truly understand, what these data assets mean and how they are relating with each other. And then thirdly, you need to have the business process system that explains you how you use that data, both when you read it as well as when you write it, when you make a new transaction. And you want to bring all of these things together as the base recipe for building powerful enterprise AI systems. And the second piece that you need, which is incredibly important too, is, right, you need now to understand how you apply AI technology in an enterprise context so it's 100% accurate and compliant. I give you a practical example of that, right? Because the base model, as we said earlier, is probabilistic, right? So, it can generate your report, but you wouldn't know, if it's 100% correct or not. Because statistically speaking, right, the model, may get a query wrong, it may read a data field in the wrong way. It doesn't give you actually any guarantee about it being 100% correct in its base form. So when we say we build an agent, we are not just prompting a model. Actually, what we are building is a complex AI system with multiple big models, small models, deterministic business logic, compliance checks that orchestrate an entire flow where models are selectively used, but the business process is always driving. So when we produce a report, we can tell the CFO it's 100% correct. AI is part of the solution, right? But it's 100% correct. You don't need to even think about it.
Yeah.
And I tell you, right, today, where I think, the big divide is between investment and ROI is because people get stuck. The enterprise data not being AI ready. They don't have, the business process system that actually makes it compliant. And they're not building a complex AI system that is designed for accuracy and repeatability and determinism in an enterprise context. So they get stuck on concerns about accuracy, concerns about, viability with their data. And it all leads us to what today is being called AI POC hell.
Yeah.
Because they all get the promise. That's where your startup question, or upstart question comes in, right? Everyone is excited about the promise. But they also realize on day 2, they can't get to the outcome. Because you need Workday's unique advantages of the data set, the business context, the business process system, and the ability to engineer AI systems all in combination to build enterprise AI.
So Gerrit, super helpful. When you say that, I'm thinking in my head, okay, those are all reasons why a startup would have a problem. But what I'm not as clear on is when you think about the traditional ERP, they have a lot of data, they have business process. Talk about how you think what our differentiation is against them in particular.
Yeah, you would need to ask a spokesperson of any of their companies, Justin, I guess. But I know what you're looking for, right? And I just want to bring it back to Workday. Workday is just incredibly strong in its AI position because it's born in the cloud. And most of the other vendors that you're referring to, the reality is they are just not. And when you think about, their system architecture, like we talked about, their data set, their business context, their business process system, it spreads across on-premise, multiple clouds, multiple different acquired solutions. That pristine data set, it doesn't exist. That singular business process system, it doesn't exist. And I think what you see is that it not only limits the ability to build powerful AI solutions, it also limits their ability now to bring this then back to their users, right? Because how can you create an AI experience that brings it all together if underneath, you have a disparate, disconnected set of systems?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I want to come back to what we talked about a few questions ago and talk about hyper-automation. We have a lot of different agents that I know we're rolling out. We have many that are already in the hands of our customers. How do you think about prioritization, right? Because there's a lot of different needs within HR and finance. How do you go about when you're working with your teams, sequencing what that looks like?
Yeah, it all comes back to customer value, right? And really being connected in the CHRO, the CFO, and the CIO agenda. So we prioritize when we say, automation, the biggest problems, the biggest challenges that they have in their business today, and how we can bring automation to unlock big efficiencies in these business processes. Actually, our founder, right, Anil, his big point was if AI doesn't have ROI, it's not worth pursuing it. And that's an incredibly useful rubric. It sounds basic, but you see so much, what's being called AI slop today. There's even enterprise AI slop where people say this is just making us more busy. It doesn't solve a problem because they miss the ROI rubric test. And what you see, where we are investing in, right? Like I said, in recruiting, in learning, in payroll automation, on the finance side, in document-driven accounting, on the CIO side, right? On agent creation and really democratizing, simplifying how you can build AI agents with a very broad set of connectivity. They are really rooted in the big problems, each of these departments has, and giving them a superior AI solutions. And we are really good at stack ranking based off of that. And secondly, like I said, right, we are also focused on creating this new AI experience layer. So we're not just looking at, at the CHRO, the CFO, and the CIO. We're also looking at the everyday worker. And we did extensive research to find out what is it, right, that makes their workday hard? And what is it that makes their workday good and productive? And that led us, to that vision of, the new workday. So a separation between work and day, and workday, if you will. Because there is a opportunity for us to really reimagine the work experience of every professional worker out there and massively improving it. And there is also a third rubric that we are using, which I think is important for our investors to know. AI gives us incredible leverage too, right? AI makes us faster in software development and product design. We are using it extensively inside of Workday. So we are also looking at new domains and new market segments that we can create new solutions for. One of the big, things that we are doing is looking at the frontline worker. It is, the largest worker population out there. It's incredibly underserved. There's a lot of legacy and point solutions today which are trying to make the frontline work experience. I'm talking about blue-collar worker, people without a corporate email address, but still having the same needs from labor optimization, shift scheduling, on the time learning, and so forth. And really creating a solution suite for them, as well as we're looking at, down market opportunities. What do medium enterprise companies care most about? Simplification. They want a simple system. With AI, we are working on a basically Workday system almost on autopilot, which is already partly self-configuring, self-administering, self-optimizing, so that all of the medium enterprise companies out there, on the globe really can get the benefit of the best HR and finance solution, but getting it in a simplified form with AI, so it practically runs it for themselves.
Yeah, that's great. I want to come back to the second area that you highlighted a moment ago, which is the new UI. I know we made a big bet, I think one of our biggest bets in quite some time in Sana, and there's a lot of excitement. Just share why we're excited. What do you think that means for us and for our customers?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly exciting opportunity right now to really reimagine the work experience through AI. And not just for Workday, I mean in general. It's a pretty big vision that we are having for Sana. And that pretty much comes from the understanding is that, AI really has a duality to it. One is the hyper-automation of the back end, and then the hyper-contextualization of the front end, right? Because today, everything you do in a software system basically is standard, at least in one company for every employee, right? But everyone is so different. And everyone has different work needs, right? From managing your calendar, getting the right information out of your CRM system, getting time off, managing shift schedules, approving expenses. Everyone has a unique work day, right? And yet the work experience is uniform today. So with Sana, we are really looking at the opportunity to completely reimagine what that looks like. So when you start your workday, you have this intelligent assistant always with you that helps you navigate all of the tasks that you are trying to accomplish in that given day and gives you predictive and proactive assistance for it by orchestrating actions in Workday and even beyond Workday. And what we looked for specifically was 3 things. 1, an incredible UI experience, which is beautiful to use, that is engaging to use, that makes you want to use it.
Yeah.
Secondly, a powerful knowledge system and agent orchestration system. So somewhere all of that context needs to live, right? All of that information needs to live and be readily be made available to AI actors that can now act on this information. That is the second core piece that Sana brings, that AI knowledge system and the agent orchestrator. And then thirdly, we were looking specifically at a way how we can bring the AI experience, the knowledge system together with AI agents in our backend system. So basically giving it the ability to operate on Workday and across Workday. And what we are doing on our side for that is having an incredibly big effort now to completely open up the Workday platform with AI APIs. And we acquired a small company called Pipedream, which is, small in size, but is huge in connectivity. It has 3,000 enterprise-grade data connectors that we are just going to provide into Sana as well. And what we see with this coming together is 1, for us, we will create the work experience for HR and finance. And secondly, our partners and our customers can now use Sana to basically build all of the workflows, all of the integrations, all of the orchestrations through the Sana experience across all of the other enterprise AI systems.
Yeah, super cool. So in that world, Gerrit, do people even log into Workday as you know it today, or is it really Sana become how they engage?
I think it will depend, right? I think most people will go to the Sana experience, the most everyday worker will, and actually Sana will tell you today, my meeting prep for this meeting.
Yeah.
Sana told me, right, I have this meeting coming up with Justin, this is the document you want to look at, and by the way, this is what's happening after, so you have to get out by this time.
Right.
And here are the cliff notes for it, right? So actually Sana tells you, right, Sana engages with you. And that's the beautiful piece of it, right? Like I said, it's not just, a static system, it's actually an intelligent collaborator that helps you navigate your workday.
Yeah.
And I think for most people, this is going to be the primary entry point. But look, the reality is, right, that enterprises are large, adoption cycles are long, and there are genuinely some workflows where you have more complex information where you may want to go back to Workday, right? And, see your full chart of account, for instance, and don't use it in a chat-like metaphor, but more, in a complete application style of experience. And we're going to provide both, but we're definitely going to see a big shift towards that intelligent AI workplace.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. So I want to come here in the last few minutes we have to monetization, which is obviously an important area for my constituent base, the investor base. Talk a little bit about, we've gone through a transition. I know we've got a big year ahead of us with flex credits. Talk about kind of what that looks like and how you think about this, how this plays out over the next few years.
Yeah, look, I think no one really knows what the best way is to capture AI value. And today we see many models out there, and I frankly think that there is not a single model that fits all needs, right? You see seat-based pricing, but clearly seat-based pricing has limits because AI usage may expand and the seat stays the same. Secondly, seat-based pricing is limited because sometimes the value doesn't accrue on a per-seat basis. To give you a practical example, contract intelligence, right? If you scan thousands of employees, right? You're not hiring thousands of lawyers you could sell a license to, right? And on the other hand, you still have many areas where actually the value accrues on a per-seat basis, like paying people payroll, or like learning, right? You train people. So I strongly believe that you need to have a hybrid model where you have seat-based licensing as well as usage-based licensing and apply them smartly to the right domains based on the customer and customer reality where they accrue the value from your solution. And that's why we have launched flex credits. we have been incredibly bold with flex credits because we made one AI system, one AI commercial system that expands across all AI types. It's a single consumption-based metric, applies to all of Workday's AI solution. Every customer gets a free base entitlement. By the way, we have already billions of AI actions in our system taking place already, which our customers get as part of the Workday experience, covered by their flex credit entitlement in future. And it allows us to continuously deliver AI innovation to our customers because it's all going to be on that flex credit model. So our customers don't have to go through contracting or anything like that. And on the other hand, we're still going to provide seat-based licensing for the domain where it makes sense, also partially using AI features in the solution design.
Yeah.
So I think it's about being clear that you need to have a flexible monetization model that is seat-based and usage-based. With flex credits, we have, I think, the best AI monetization model in the industry, the most flexible, the most transparent, the most easy to understand. And at the same point in time, right, making sure that we are not forcing it in domains where it would be unnatural.
Yeah, no, that's great. I want to close, Gerrit, just really quickly. I know you've got a lot on your plate, and I know you've got to get out of here too. But you think
Donna told me so, yeah.
You think about FY27, and we're in the thick of planning. What are sort of 3 or 4 big things that you're focused on in the year ahead with your team?
We're going to launch an amazing amount of AI actions. We have right now 15 agents in the hands of our customers already. This number is going to go up dramatically this year. So I really look forward, to us hyper-automating the domain of HR and finance and really helping the CIOs out there to innovate with AI. That's one big bucket of priorities.
Sure.
And then secondly, it's really about applying AI in how we work internally. We are already so much, benefiting from the value of AI product design and AI software engineering. And we have been really using that to unlock new domains for us. We talked about frontline and the frontline worker, and I'm looking, forward to really innovating in that space, as well as, delivering new experiences for our mid-market customers and making sure they get the simplest on autopilot almost solution, right, with Workday Go. And then thirdly, it all ties back to that new work experience. I know almost everyone that's listening right now probably is having a real need in their Workday, the Workday to be more intelligent and more smarter. And I think there is a big, beautiful vision for us, at Workday to truly deliver that to that world, that smart experience that feels great, that makes you go home and saying, I had a great productive day and my work, really gets me. And creating that with Sana, I think, is one of the big, unlocks that we can create, frankly, not just for us as a business, but actually for everyone's Workday and making it better.
Well, that's a great place to close, Gerrit. Really appreciate all the insights that you shared with us today. So thank you for spending time with us. We've covered a lot of ground here today, but the key message in my mind to take away is that our data, context, and business process engines set us apart, and the moment is now to capture this opportunity. Thanks for joining us.